Right. So as you can see, these are the top 9 tips which helped me secure an 8.5 and a 9 in the listening component. And I believe that the major reason why I was able to achieve those bands is because I used the first 2 minutes very effectively. Now, what I mean by using the first 2 minutes effectively, right? It's that you need to focus on what the question and what they're asking. So in the first 2 minutes, what happens is that you will get a question paper and you'll get a couple of minutes to read through the questions and to figure out what they really want from you, what are they expected from you. So once you are able to read through the questions, just mark the keywords. That brings us to our second tip. You need to mark the keywords, mark the question, the names, or the places, or any keyword that you think might come in handy while listening to the recording. Alright, so once you're listening to the recording, you do not get enough time to actually read the question and then stay focused, because the recording does not stop in between. It does not get paused. It's a continuous recording. So what you have to do in the first 2 minutes is you have to mark the keywords of at least the first 5 to 6 questions. Right? Now, one major thing to note in the listening component is that the questions will come in the same sequence. So if you see it in the question paper, number 1, number 2, number 3, that is how it will be repeated in the same recording as well. So please make sure you do not waste time stuck on a question, but rather mark the keywords, and the moment you hear the keyword, you know that the answer of the question is right there in that sentence. Right. So using the first 2 minutes effectively is very important. Marking the keywords is extremely important. That brings us to our third point, which is follow the instructions. Now, what I noticed among my friends as well, and a couple of people that I met throughout my IELTS sessions, is that people weren't really paying much attention to the instructions of the question. Now, what happens is that you read the question and you try to answer them, but without knowing what the question really is asking from you. What are the instructions? For example, the instructions might say, do not write more than 3 words, or only write in numbers, or do only give the alphabets, because sometimes it's a fill in the blank question in which you do not have to write the answer itself, but you have to write the alphabets which are allocated for that answer. So it's a fill in the blank kind of question. So you have to read the instructions very, very carefully to know what they're asking from you. But if you have to write an alphabet but you write a word instead, you will be marked down for that and you will get 0 points for that. And that is making a silly mistake, and you'll be losing a lot of marks if you do not follow the instruction. A common question which is usually asked in the listening component is, please do not write more than 2 words, or write 2 words and 1 number, something along those lines. So it's very important to first get acclimatized to the kind of questions they're asking, and then start on reading the question. So that comes in using the first 2 minutes effectively as well, by reading the instructions and what they are expecting of you in that particular question. As I said, the answers come in the same sequence, so please do not get stuck. If you do not know an answer of one question, it's completely fine. You'll be losing 1 mark, but that is completely fine, rather than you getting stuck on that question which will not get repeated, and you'll end up missing up much more questions which are to come. So it's very much recommended that please do not get stuck on a question. If you're unable to focus on one thing, just leave it off, strike it off. You can mark an X beside it and then try to predict what an answer could be, just to fill it in. But rather just keep on continuing the questions, because they come in very quickly. So probably in a minute or two, you'll be listening to 4 or 5 answers. So you have to pay very much attention to all these details and do not get stuck on one question. Spelling. Now this is one thing where I've noticed people go wrong as well, because they think that they have written the same answer, okay, but they did not focus on the spellings. Now at the end of the day, it's an English exam, right? So but if you're not able to spell the answer correctly, then you will not be getting marks for it. You will be marked down for that answer, and even though your answer is correct, but if there is a problem with spelling, you will not get marked for it. So please do keep in mind, this matters a lot in the reading section as well, that I'll be speaking about in my next session. But please do keep in mind, you will not be marked for an answer if the spelling is wrong. Please do keep that in mind. Singular versus plural. Again, one most common mistake where people go wrong is that, for example, if there's an article, if there is a podcast or something regarding animals or some archaeological sites, and if it says cats, right? But in the recording it said a cat, but you wrote cats, you will actually be marked down for that, and you will not get any marks for it, because the grammar is actually very important. Even though it's the listening component of the IELTS exam, the grammar is equally important, how you'll find it in a writing section of the IELTS exam. So that is quite important as well. Now, as I mentioned, listen and write at the same time. As I already told you, you will get 10 minutes to actually transfer your answers from the question sheet to the answer sheet. And that is more than enough. You'll be able to transfer them in 3 or 4 minutes. So you will have 5 spare minutes at the end of the day. So what you have to do is please mark the keywords in the question itself and write your answer in the question sheet itself. Do not try to write it in the answer sheet, and if you end up missing one question in the middle, the whole order can go wrong, which actually will be quite detrimental for your final result. So that is one thing. Please do listen to the question and write it in the same answer sheet, in the same question sheet, at the same time. Be aware of the corrections. Now, this is where people go wrong. This is where actually they try to trick us. This is where IELTS tricks us, right? So I got this question 3 times, I believe. Yeah, 3 times in my most recent exam. So what happens is that there was a phone number, right, and there was a number of a room in a hotel or something as such, something along those lines. And so it was a conversation between a telephone operator and a customer. So the customer told about her phone number to the telephone operator, but what happened is that the telephone operator made a mistake, and then she goes like, "Oh, I'm sorry, did you mean 042678?" And then the customer was like, "No, I meant 12678." So you see how they make the correction. Now you might have written your answer in the first instance itself, but that is wrong, because that's where IELTS trick you. So they will make the corrections, and you have to be vigilant enough to catch their corrections. This actually shows up in a lot of IELTS exam, usually around the 3rd and the 4th answer exercise. This happens a lot. Do not get stuck on a question. My final tip is, do not get stuck on a question. If you do not know an answer of anything, it's completely fine. It's completely fine. You can still manage to get a band 9 by making 1 or 2 mistakes. But please do not get stuck on one question, because you'll mess up the whole answering routine, and you're more likely to go wrong in more other questions than that one. So these are my 9 tips, which I'll say please do keep in mind when it comes to the listening component. And it's in my opinion, it's the easiest component. It's actually easier than speaking, because when you're focused, you just need to maintain a good concentration levels here, and just need to be quick. Just read the question, mark the keywords, right, and then answer them at there itself. If you do not know an answer, it's completely fine. You can skip to the next one, and you will still be able to secure a band 9. One thing to keep in mind is that sometimes in IELTS centers, they give the headphones and sometimes they don't, right? So the one that I gave in my first exam, I did get headphones, but in the second one, I did not get headphones. So please do not get distracted by all the background noises that maybe people will be making in the background or anything. Just keep focused on the recording itself, and you'll be able to ace this exam hopefully. Right. Thank you.